So far, they were the only two out and about. She stepped up into the pilot house and frowned. Ahead of her, the door going into the cabin area was open. Her father had always kept it closed and locked. Chris apparently hadn't bothered, or she'd forgotten. Probably the latter. When their father hadn't returned from his solo outing, Chris had taken it hard. 3 days later, the Coast Guard had called off the search, and since then, Chris had alternated between anger and inconsolable grief. All her life, she'd been his favorite, and they'd shared a special bond. Considering Chris's state of mind, Kassie would have met with the Coast Guard folks herself if she hadn't had back-to-back appointments at her salon. Not that his death had been easy on her. It hadn't, for different reasons. She descended the 4 steps and stopped in the galley, arms crossed. It looked like the scene of a small frat party. Besides numerous beer cans, 3 empty bottles were scattered across the floor. They'd held Jim Beam bourbon. But there'd been no party. Her father's drinking was never a celebration. It was an escape from whatever disappointments life held. She heaved a sigh. His drowning wasn't the mystery she had thought it was. Chris hadn't mentioned the empty liquor bottles. Kassie wasn't surprised. Listening to Chris, one would think their father did no wrong. Kassie knew better. Chris did too. She just chose to live in denial. The Coast Guard people were right. There were no signs of foul play. What had happened was spelled out in glaring detail right there on the galley floor. She removed a garbage bag from one of the drawers and tossed in the cans first. A bottle followed, rattling the aluminum. A clunk seemed to echo beyond the galley. She paused, listening. The early morning was silent, except for the call of seagulls and the gentle lap of water against the hull. Soon there was another sound, approaching, then fading footsteps. The fisherman had secured his boat and was making his way down the dock. No one was on the boat with her. The tall metal gate securing the marina stayed locked. She'd used her key to enter, as would anyone else who wanted to access the area. She resumed her cleanup. As she added the last 2 liquor bottles to the trash bag, annoyance surged through her. No, stronger than annoyance. Resentment. And a solid dose of anger. Her father's drinking and accompanying fits of rage had cast their shadow over her entire childhood. Worse, though, was the guilt. Regret that she'd never fully made things right with him, and now he was gone. Her lack of grief only made the guilt worse. What kind of daughter was she anyway? What kind of Christian? After finishing the items on the floor, she disposed of a crumb-covered paper plate and plastic knife he'd left in the sink, remnants of making a sandwich. Likely his final meal. A sense of gloom descended over her. She shook it off and rounded the corner to the head. The face staring back at her from the mirror over the sink bore lines of fatigue. In the coming weeks, it would only get worse. Mounds of paperwork awaited her, starting the process of having her father declared dead in absentia, getting Ashbaugh Charter's records in order, handling the sale of the company. None of it would be easy. The brief creak of a door hinge sent goosebumps cascading over her. For several seconds, she stood frozen, listening. Again, only the usual seaside sounds surrounded her, but she'd gotten herself spooked enough to consider going topside to see if someone had arrived and would check the boat for her, especially since Chris hadn't locked it. They would find nothing and she'd feel like a wimp, but she didn't have anything to prove. She stepped from the head and glanced both directions. Aft, then fore. A face hidden behind a ski mask peered around the doorway to the front berth. Her heart jumped to double time, and she leaped toward the steps. As she gripped the handrail, ready to scramble up, heavy footsteps pounded behind her, closing in. She'd just reached the second step when thick arms wrapped around her waist, holding her in a